What's the most shameful, embarrassing, weirdo or creeper thing you have ever done? Story 1. Back when I was in high school, I started working out after school in the weight room. During the winter, not many people went there. On this particular day, only about 4 people were there. 1 guide, 2 girls, and myself. Being a young guy, seeing girls in tight yoga pants extremely turned me on. I decided to leave early. I entered the locker room and shower. The whole time I have a raging hard on. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I started to wank. As I was just about to blow, the other guy enters the shower room. I try to make myself not jizz, but it was too late. I was so embarrassed. It was one of those times when the tool kept pumping load after load. I immediately washed the soap off and walked my ass out. As I was leaving, I looked back to see if he was laughing at me or something. Lord behold, he looked back at the same time. Our eyes met. I saw it, he had a hard on. Jesus Christ. I saw my Randy to my locker. Hands shaking of embarrassment. I didn't even dry off. I just put on my clothes and ran home. I remember I didn't go to class the next day and never went back to the weight room. Story 2. When I was living with my ex, we spent some time in a rural part of the country, and so we could afford a pretty big house. The only problem was that it was relatively secluded. It was in town, but this particular street was very wooded, and so at nighttime it could get a bit scary. So I'm lying down in my bed, walking away merrily while my ex is watching TV in the other room. I'm pining away, and I come so close to climax. Just as I climax, my ex bursts through the door to the bedroom and said, "There are some guys outside on the porch," and they tapped on the front window when they saw me. When I shoot open and I stand up with a start, stream after stream of jizz shoots out of my tool, most of it landing on the floor in front of my ex. We stare at each other. She has a look of horror from both the home invader and the unexpected seed discharge. I have a look of horror and shame. Finally, I grab a pillow to cover my lap and run out into the living room after my ex. The 2 guys are there still standing on the porch, but they look a bit alarmed. My ex, having run off, startled them a bit, and when he saw us coming back, I think they presumed that we were bringing a gun. Well, in fact, I was bringing a gun, but it wasn't loaded anymore. I figured we had the element of surprise and terror to one of them. So I dropped the pillow, my still erect phallus swinging in their direction, and started to unlock the door. I started screaming, "Gonna screw your balls," at the top of my lungs over and over again. Both guys looked at each other and went completely pale. One of them was holding some sort of weapon, I think, but he screamed like a little girl and ran just as quickly as the other. I didn't even need to finish unlocking the door. Story 3. I was 10 years old playing in my backyard. It was full of snow and I was just laying down on my back. I wondered what it would feel like to stick my weenie in the snow. So I laid on my stomach and pretty much slid down my 3 layers of pants and stuck my weenie in the snow. Again, it felt so good in a weird way that my mom came out and she saw my ass as I was struggling to pull my 3 layers of pants back on without revealing. I was pretty much manning the snow. She can be pretty clueless at times, but just asked if I wanted hot chocolate after I got back, and I said yes. Story 4. Back when I was 6 or 7, I had a friend who lived in the yard behind my house who was about a year older than me. One day my sister, who was in her teenage years at the time, was sunbathing in my backyard while my friend and I were playing in his backyard. He saw my sister and jokingly said that he would give me $1,000 if I went over and took off her swimsuit top. Now, I was a pretty sheltered kid and I didn't understand the thrill nature regarding melon, so I agreed. Before he could stop me, I jumped the fence and tried to take off my sister's top. She flipped the shit out and nearly killed me. To this day, we have never brought up the incident. Not me, my friend, or my sister. Story 5. Not my shameful, embarrassing moment, but one that is seared into my cranium. It was 7th grade science, and our desks were positioned in a large semicircle, and this one girl, we'll call her Emmy, sat across from me. She was quite eccentric, a stocky thing who favored long green shorts and thigh-high boots. Walter in class, and he would shimmy down into her seat and would feign indifference and boredom while she would inconspicuously stick her hand into her long green shorts and would furiously jiggle her arm for the first few times out of my peripheral vision. It looked like a hasty crotch scratch. Crude, but understandable since it was the hot, sticky days of spring. No one made any noise about it, so Amy thought it was safe a couple of times every period to dip her hand under her undies, and it's the ditch around. To our collective horror, the lower half of her body was quite exposed if she wore her stretchy pants. We could see exactly what her hand was doing down there, and it would occasionally come up for air and she would carefully sniff her fingers, or on one infamous occasion, lick them. I don't know how I managed to keep a straight face that year. No one made a peep, but I knew. Amy, we knew. Story 6. Back when I was a freshman in high school, I had a ridiculously huge crush on this friend of mine. Somehow, I made a bet with a friend about something stupid, and if I won, The girl I liked would have to give me the pair of undies she was wearing because the friend I made a bet with wouldn't do this herself, and the girl I like was a stand-in. For reasons that probably have to do with the fact that we were all young and stupid, I ended up winning the bet. And so at the end of the night, the girl nervously went into the bathroom and took off her undies. She came back out very obviously embarrassed at going commando under her dress and pressed a fistful of black cotton undies into my hand straight away. Then at night, I went home and carefully inspected the undies. Everything from the scent to the pattern of white discharge left behind on the inside of the otherwise black and flawless pair of undies. I slept with them under my pillow, one hand still tangled with them beneath my head, and Hekin woke up once during the night to sniff them some more. I think I may have licked them too. Still worse, the next morning, I actually wore them for a while, trying to feel some indirect contact between my privates and hers. I don't think I actually yanked to them, but I was undeniably aroused. But here's the kicker. After deciding that I couldn't just leave the undies around for my parents to find, I cut them into thin strips and made the strips of her undies into a bracelet that I wore for weeks. I even told her that I'd done this and proudly produced my wrist to her to display the admittedly poorly made bracelet. Improbable as it is, we're actually dating now. Years later, I told her that I was joking about the undies into bracelet thing, and I never told her about the creeper things I did with them before, but that's probably for the best. Story 7. Wasn't me, but at a party, my friend disappeared into the bathroom with some guy and did the deed. She didn't realize that there was a second door that leads into the bathroom. When she had finished, she noticed the second door and was slightly ajar. She was all WTF-like. Opened it more and there was a guy standing there rubbing one out. She couldn't believe it, and like a champ, he just stared into her eyes and kept going. I don't think the guy has showed up for parties at this house for a while now. Story 8. I was in Europe with my family when I was 15 or 16. Since we shared a room with 2 beds and a single bathroom wherever we went, I hadn't had a decent shake session for almost 2 weeks. At that age, the urge was almost unbearable. We were in Venice for the final part of our trip when it happened. There were numerous well-endowed girls in the area, and one in particular caught my eye. She couldn't have been much older than I was, but was incredibly spicy and mature for her age. The girl lived in the building across from our hotel, and her bedroom window was at the same level as our bathroom window. I got hard every time I looked at her going about her day in all her glory and waited for a time when I could be in the bathroom for a while. The next morning I was taking a shower in the bathtub, which had no curtain or door for some odd reason. The girl emerges from another room in her house completely exposed with no covering. I couldn't believe my eyes. She was everything I had imagined in the days before. Was she not aware that her curtains weren't drawn? I started stroking furiously with the pent-up energy of a 2-week-long fat drought. Suddenly she turns and sees me beating my weenie. I try to duck out of the way of the window, but I end up releasing at the same time. Loads and loads of jizz go flying everywhere in the shower. After a few seconds, when I think it's safe to move, I peek at the window. The girls points and I immediately see why giant blobs of stringy jizz hung themselves delicately from the window. Shocked and embarrassed, I wiped the window down with my towel. She was laughing and I had nowhere to hide. I was so distraught I didn't even notice the jizz clinging to my ankles as I walked out of the bathroom. My mom points this out to me and I declare too loudly, "It's just so." Let's just say I was glad the trip was over. Story 9. I used to live in an old apartment building that had paper-thin walls. I had some really hot neighbors, and I always thought they were just loud. My room was right next to their bathroom, and there was an access panel of some sort in my closet between the rooms. One of them used to sing in the shower and had a beautiful voice. The other used to wank and make little moaning noises. Every morning I would wake to the sound of their quirky little bathroom rituals. I regret the day that I looked behind the access panel and found plumbing parasites and an electrical outlet that was conveniently cracked and provided a perfect view of the room, which was fantastic. Every young guy's dream. After living there for a while, I got to know them pretty well, and we would drink beers and make food sometimes. One day I was over for dinner and they asked me who I nagged them more. What they knew I watched them but wanted to know who finished me more. My face has never been so hot in my life. I still watch them. Every once in a while I would catch a little smirk. The saddest day of my life was when they moved out of that apartment and Steve moved in. Story 10. Back when I was 13. When I first discovered the wonders of wanking, I was in the process of having a wank while flipping through the TV, trying to find something good to get it up to. Being young and stupid, I didn't have a lock on my door, and I don't know why. I thought it was a good idea to do it during the day. Well, just about the time I reached climax, the channel happened to stop on Cartoon Network, which was playing Bugs Bunny. Right then my dad bursts in my eyes met his. Then his eyes met my weenie in my hand, and then to the image of Bugs Bunny gnawing away at a carrot, and finally to watching my blow my prepubescent load all over myself. He calmly stated, When you're done whacking your carrot, dinner's ready, wash your hands. I couldn't look at him for weeks after that incident. Story 11. A few years ago, I was asked to house sit for some family friends. They had a horse competition and needed someone to look after the plants and dogs for a few days. They live on a small farm, so they had several spare bedrooms for employees to stay at. Apart from having a few chickens and such, their main business was with horses. They had a few riders, all girls who lived there for a few months at a time. Anyway, I found one of the girls to be very attractive. I never talked to her and only saw her for, like, 5 seconds before she left. I only knew her name, so I had the great idea of going into her room, going through her underwear and wearing it. I rubbed my face in it, wonked while wearing it, and even got some water balloons for fake jugs in her top. On my last day, I was feeling extra naughty and decided to go outside to water the plants in her especially steamy undies and top with the biggest water balloons I could fit. Since it was pretty much in the woods, nobody would have seen me. So I'm watering plants, playing with my fake jugs and wanking when I hear something. I realize it's everyone coming back 3 hours earlier than they were supposed to. Here I am in this girl's undies with giant water balloon jugs with a shiny top wearing flip-flops. I freak out because they'd be able to see me once they get to their parking lot area. I've only chance was to run straight to the house through the back. So I ran, jumped a small fence, and had one of my water jug fall out and break, making the undies wet. I get to the door, run to the stairs. My room was upstairs only to see the owners come through the door. By the time they noticed me, I was running up the stairs and had the other water jug fall out and break on the wood stairs. I slip, pull myself up and run into my room to hide and change. I managed to get the undies and top in the laundry with the next few hours were really freaking awkward. Story 12. I was a teen on vacation with the family. I decided to do my own thing and check out girls around the resort. Walking up to the pool area, I noticed a woman who was lying face down on her pool chair, and her swimsuit bottom was too loose and her kitty was exposed. I kept walking back and forth to build up memory for later yanking when I felt that was good to go. I went to turn and go back to my room. But at that moment I saw my dad walk over to the woman and sit down next to her. It was my mom. Story 13. When I was young we used to have foreign students stay at our home. They used to have their own bedroom, with a built-in shower. My room was next to theirs. Each bedroom had bay windows and I used to position the mirror in their room with mine so I could watch the girls take showers. From the age of 7 to 15, I watched spicy and some not so spicy French, Spanish and German girls shower. I must have seen 50 different girls. I know it was wrong, but I was young and wild and the internet did not exist. Story 14. Our main floor bathroom was being remodeled along with the entire upstairs area. For a span of 3 or 4 months, there was a 7 by 7 inches hole on the ceiling of the bathroom where the air duct was to be placed. At night, all you were able to see through that hole from the bathroom was pitch dark. But from upstairs, you could see all in the bathroom. So late at night, when my older sister would go in to use the bath or shower, I'd sneak upstairs to watch her. The sight of her athletic exposed body, excitement, disgust, fear of getting caught, and feeling of pure adrenaline made for an insane peak, especially when she would occasionally play in the tub. I kept this up until the day the bathroom was finished, and then that was the end of it. Story 15. When I was 10 and like many guys that age, was curious as to whether I could get my own tool in my mouth. So I got completely undressed and was lying on my back on the bed with my legs stretched over my shoulders when my mom walked in. She asked what the hell I was doing, and I sort of stammered. Nothing, just examining it. Yeah, she knew, but my mom was a classy lady and never brought it up again. Story 16. When I was a teenager, a girl left her pillow at my place. I didn't realize it was hers and used it as a wank crack for like 2 months straight. And once it got too crusty to use, I just tossed it into a corner and forgot about it. It was a nice golden yellow and crunchy. So later on she comes over, sees the pillow and is like, "Oh, there's my pillow." Grabs it and leaves. Later on she told me that pillows smelled really good and reminded her of me, and she slept on it for months. Story 17. I did not learn how to wank until I was in high school. 9th health class taught reproductive lessons, which is how I learned about it. So in 7th grade, I accidentally brushed my hand against a girl's bush area. For unknown reason at that time, I was so excited that I did it again as if it was an accident. She knew what I was doing and gave me a dirty, shameful look. I was scared that she would say something to her friends. I'll never know. Story 18. I'm a smoker, so I spit kind of frequently. One day I was sitting at a red. It turned green, and I didn't peel off right away because I felt I had to spit. So the car across the intersection came past me, and just as I looked out my window, It went right into the oncoming car's open window. I had people in the car, too. Everybody saw it at the same time that it definitely went in there and hit the guy. We all burst out laughing. Peel off. Felt horrible. Story 19. I'd go over to a friend's house who had a younger sister that he was extremely overprotective about. I had known them for a few years already. Then puberty hit her like a ton of bricks and she inherited her family's big melons. I watched her jogging a few times. She played soccer, so had a toned body. When I would go over, I'd tell my friend I was going to take a stool. Then I'd wander in her room and grab and sniff her top and undies, lick them on the bullet spot, rub them in my pants. I ended up dating her later for about a year and punched her V-card. I never told her of the word angst I had toward her previously. Story 20. I was a pretty typical horny teenager and used to like to wike in my bed before falling asleep. Once I had been going at it for a long time and got thirsty rather than wake everyone up. I took a flashlight with me to the kitchen. However, I am still really hard, so I pause in the hallway and rub myself with the flashlight. After a moment I hear a noise and look up to see my dad sleeping on the couch a few feet away. At least I hope he was sleeping and not faking it. Story 21. I was inside, walking down the stairs towards the front door of an apartment. I saw a nice bum through the window. I walked closer to the window to get a better view, but the door blocked my line of sight until I was right next to the window, which was 3 feet away from her. By that time, she turned around. We made eye contact through the window. The look on her face meant she knew what I was doing. I turned and sprinted out the back door of the apartment.